Hey everybody, sorry, it's gonna dip the music a little bit. Anyway, how are we all doing today? It's time for weekly news recap for the week 25 to 31 July 2022. Sorry, I am scatterbrained. Apologies. Anyway, we'll jump into it. So, this week, Annapurna Interactive had a showcase where they showed off like what they're planning to do for the rest of this year and a bit of into next year. So first up, they had a trailer for Thirsty Suitors, which is a kind of, think of it as Scott Pilgrim, but with people of color and like dance-offs and a bit of Tony Hawk's going on at the same time. Tony Hawk, whatever. Anyway, it's that kind of thing. It's a kind of narrative experience where you're playing this woman who is fending off different suitors who may or may not be acceptable to her and her family and so on. And it's kind of like hip and urban and whatever else, I don't know. Not particularly interesting to me, but whatever, they showed that off. And there's Tony Hawk skating for whatever reason. Elsewhere, they showed off a trailer for Hindsight, which is a narrative thingamajig, walkie sim type thing. That's all I kind of know about it, really. It didn't seem particularly interesting, to be honest. It was like a look back at this person's life as, you know, different things that have changed over time, and if they could change things, you know, would they be better, and so on. It has a nice presentation style, although it's not really being shown off too well in this trailer, but previous trailers have shown off some pretty interesting, so this kind of stuff, and like you can overlay elements and you can see the past and stuff like that. That is interesting, but the story itself seems kind of whatever. Anyway, it's coming out on August 4th. Probably more to see about it later on. Also, they are going to partner with Kentucky Route Zero's people. Kentucky Route Zero is a very, very interesting story game. Typically, I think it's just on PC. Or rather, I think it's just on Steam. I'm not sure if it's on Epic. I think it's on Switch as well if you want to get it on console. It's an interesting concept. They're working on another game that is a bit more focused on performance rather than what Kentucky Route Zero is, more of a throwback to kind of pixel art sort of stuff. We also have a game called Bounty Star, The Morose Tale of the Graveyard and Clem. No, not Graveyard and Clem, Graveyard Clem. I don't know what this game is. But it seems fun. It seems interesting. There's like mech stuff happening. It's like rusty mechs that you're trying to put back together. And it's like a third-person combat mech thing where you build up like a workshop, work on your mech, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it looks interesting. You know, it's got an interesting tone to it. And it's been a while since I've seen any like decent mech combat sort of stuff. So yeah, let's see how that turns out. I don't think it has a release date or anything like that. It's mostly just a teaser trailer. Never mind. Well, it's not a release date exactly. A release year, next year, at some point. What's this? Yarn Owl are a new studio. They're going to be bringing out something that's a bit like Zelda later in the year. That's all they have to talk about. Outer Wilds is getting a PS5, Xbox Series patch, so current gen patch. This is another game that has been kind of like, I've been thinking about playing it for the channel, but it's just a bit overwhelming. There's just so much that you can do in the game that it's a bit scary. You know, it's because it's so open-ended. You can just go wherever you want, solving puzzles and mysteries and putting a larger mystery together. It's the fact that it's got a bit of a Majora's Mask thing going on, and that there's a limited amount of time before the galaxy you're in, or the small little solar system you're in, is just obliterated, and then you get sent back to the start and you remember all the stuff you've done, go off and do it again, and, you know, try to figure out the mystery and how, if you can, not get blown up by this thing. Anyway, the Pathless. This is like a trio of games that were previously PlayStation exclusives, and their timed exclusivity is now up. So the Pathless, Maquette, and Solar Ash are all now going to be but will be launching on Xbox and Switch for the Pathless, Xbox and Switch for Maquette, and Xbox Game Pass for Solar Ash. I don't think it's getting a Switch port yet, or if ever. Might not be. What Remains of Edith Finch is also getting a PlayStation 5 Xbox Series patch. It actually has gotten it at this point. It has come out. If you already own the game, you're entitled to a free update. If, however, you got the game through Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, you are not entitled to an upgrade, which is a thing we're doing now, I guess. Forever Ago is a kind of Firewatch thing. There's not a whole lot of gameplay in this trailer. It's mostly just talking to the devs and how they think the game is going to play out, but it's basically a road trip Americana kind of thing, where you're playing an old man, which is why it's Forever Ago, and he's like reminiscing about his life, I think. Again, you're not getting much of the gameplay here. You can get a kind of style of it. It's going for the kind of Firewatch vibe, where this guy kind of goes back over his life and things he did when he was younger, etc., etc. Again, not a whole lot to talk about yet. Just kind of giving you a hint of what it might be like. Then we have Flock. This is the latest from the guys behind Hohokum. So it's going to be a fairly wholesome, fun type thing, where you play a bird collecting various friends who fly along behind you. I don't know if there's much to the game exactly, but it looks fun, and it's like vibrant, it's very colorful. I think it will really pop on like a 4K kind of TV, or even on Switch or Steam Deck or what have you. Flying sheep, I guess. Flying dandelion, fish. I don't know. You collect flocks, I guess. That's it. I don't think there's much more to it. I don't know. It looks, what's it called? Chill, at least. Speaking of Hohokum, it originally was a PlayStation exclusive, 3 and 4 and Vita. It's now on Steam. Dreamfield, the people behind If Found, their next game will also be with Annapurna. That's it. Don't know what the next game will be. Keita Takahashi, the guy behind Watama Katamari Damacy, is making a new game. It's called Uvula. If you're not familiar with anatomy, uvula is the dangly thing at the back of your throat. That's your uvula. That's it. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to be part or has anything to do with Funamina. Funamina, we've talked about in the past, that had some really bad work practices, and the studio is now shuttered. So we don't know if it has anything to do with former devs from that or something like that. That would be interesting to know. And then they finished off with a pretty interesting game. And if they can pull this off, I think it would be pretty cool. So think Alien Isolation, but instead of an alien, it's dinosaurs. Okay, so I think Jurassic Park Isolation, I guess, is what they're going for. Now, to be clear, this is not a licensed Jurassic Park game. It's just like they don't have the monopoly on dinosaurs. Anybody can make a dinosaur game. So this is what The Lost Wild is. You are, I guess, thrown back in time to an age of when dinosaurs are roaming about, or for whatever reason dinosaurs are in the modern world. I don't know. It's not clear. Either way, survival game. Kind of horror bent to it, in that like you are being hunted by raptors and etc. So yeah, it looks really cool. Like if they can pull this off and give it the same kind of hunted mentality and like claustrophobia of something like Alien Isolation, like if you can manage to get the claustrophobic vibe despite being out in the open forest, like they'll have done a great job. It does definitely have Jurassic Park vibes because you have these like modern sensibilities. You've got literally the flare scene from Jurassic Park, so they're definitely taking inspiration from Jurassic Park, but it is not a licensed Jurassic Park game, just to be very clear about that. Anyway, it looks interesting. Hopefully they're able to pull that off. And I think that was it from the Annapurna Showcase. If you want to watch the full thing, it's over there on their YouTube channel. Watch the full thing there. Elsewhere, I'm going to actually close off some of these tabs because my PC is struggling a little bit. So I'm just gonna close some of these YouTube tabs. There's quite a few. They're buried here in these collapsed things, but there's also a few more open. So anyway, PSVR2, we had a look at, or so rather, Sony gave off a look at some of its other features that are not necessarily VR based. So some of them that are already part of other VR headsets, and this is mostly confirming that the PlayStation VR2 will also have these. So the see-through view, which is a pretty important one, is basically the PlayStation VR headset has front-facing cameras as well as internal tracking cameras, so it can see out, which means you can see out. So you can press a button on the headset to just toggle the view between what's actually inside the headset and what's outside the headset. There's also a button that you can just press on the controller, or you can go through the PS5's actual card system and turn it off there instead. So you'll be able to see your surroundings. As far as I'm aware, the Oculus has this. I think the Vive has it as well. Not all of VR headsets have it, but a lot of the ones that do eye tracking with internal cameras typically also have outward-facing cameras too. So they typically have that kind of thing. So helpful to make sure you're not about to just punch your TV, you know. It's always a good thing to know. Or you're not about to just kick the dog who's wandered in to see what's happening and that kind of thing. Other thing is that you will be able to do broadcasts with Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is you're trying to broadcast out to. There will be a camera setup that will work with the PSVR2, so you'll be able to broadcast your shenanigans. Whether it'll tell you that you're facing the camera or not, so you're not doing the entire stream with the back of your head, I don't know. That would be an interesting one to know. The save space feature, which is a thing with the Oculus, you can map out your customized play area, and you can basically say to your headset that don't let me go past here. You know, if I go past here, let me know, basically. The way that works in the Oculus is if you're starting to reach past out of your play area, it will kind of put up an in-view UI to basically tell you you're at the edge, you know, stop. Obviously you can't stop you from going any further, but it's like don't go any further than this. So you can map out like, don't let me walk over to this stool, or something like that. Don't let me walk into the TV and so on. So you can map out, where exactly you're able to play to. And then kind of things that were already in the original PSVR is that there's also a cinematic mode, so you can watch or play games that don't have VR support. You can just play them as if you're just sitting in like a big cinema kind of thing. Just have a big screen to play on. But for some games that's fun. For some things it's not. Anyway. Alright, getting into... No, hang on. We'll do gooder news first. I'm going to move this one up. Frogwares is remaking Sherlock Holmes and Cthulhu crossover, The Awakened. So Frogwares, who are probably best known for the Sherlock Holmes games, they've made 10, I think? Something ridiculous. They made a stupid number of Sherlock Holmes games. Anyway, their most recent one, Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, which is a kind of somewhat reboot of their entire series. They're making Sherlock much, much younger. This is like Sherlock Year 1 kind of thing. But they're gonna remake Sherlock Holmes The Awakened, which was like one of their earliest Sherlock Holmes games, and since then they've made quite a few. So they've learned like what works, what doesn't work. Technology has improved since then, their tools have improved since then, and so on. So they're looking to go back and full remake and substantial rewrite of The Awakened. What they're going to do is they're going to absorb it into the new younger Sherlock Holmes chronology that they're going for here, so it'll be basically a sequel to Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1. Chapter 2, I guess, will be The Awakened. The Awakened was a Sherlock Holmes Cthulhu crossover type thing, and where Sherlock Holmes would deal with a missing person, and it eventually conspires that it's like this whole Lovecraftian horror, cosmic horror kind of thing. They have a bit of precedent with cosmic horror in that they did The Sinking City. There's also Frogwares, which was an okay Cthulhu game. I might play that on the stream because I enjoyed it, but it is definitely janky as fuck. So we'll see. And that's kind of it. Now, most of this is just saying, why remake a game or why revisit this one in particular and so on. And the real issue is that because Frogwares is a Ukrainian studio who are currently going through, obviously, the war in Ukraine. Russia's war in Ukraine, and they want stability and predictability in their next project, in the hopes that, you know, this kind of stability and predictability will make things easier for them going forward, and in that most of the story is set in stone, or not in stone, but like they've already done that work. They've already done the previs work for the game years ago. Like, it's already done. They just have to like refresh it basically and fix any like continuity things with the younger Sherlock and so on. Funding wise, under normal circumstances, we would secure the funding for our next game ourselves from the sales of our previous titles. However, with the war continuing, they're finding that they're having to use budget that would normally be set aside for game production. They're having to use it for like relocation, safety for their staff and stuff like that. Additional costs because they're in a war zone and so on. So they are planning on opening a Kickstarter campaign for the end of this production cycle for the game. So it's not to fund the game entirely, it's to kind of like fund the last year or so of development. So the Kickstarter isn't up yet, but it's apparently launching soon, so that's something to look out for if you're interested in that kind of thing and want to help them out. Frogwares, I've discovered I actually like a lot of their games despite them being extremely jank. I think I like jank. Maybe that's what it is, but I don't know. Anyway, I will probably look into that Kickstarter if we get news about it. Okay, so as I was saying, bad news. All right, a little like megaton bad news. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake in serious trouble. So this following on story is that Knights of the Old Republic, the remake, is on indefinite hold, which is another way of saying cancelled. Following the recent firings of two key directors. So the project reportedly hit more than a few bumps in the road. There was initially internal excitement following the production of a vertical slice of the game that was shown off to both Lucasfilm and Sony in June, not even that long ago. However, Aspyr leadership told staff that the project just wasn't where it needed to be. This is Aspyr would be the development team behind the remake. And then a week after that, design director Brad Prince and art director Jason Miner were fired. They didn't quit, they were fired. It's not confirmed why they were fired, but it is confirmed that they were fired. Neither have provided any reason for the departure. According to Bloomberg, Aspyr studio heads were telling employees that development would need to be paused as the company sought out more contract work. So this is them going, it needs to be paused, cancelled, because we don't have money, I guess. More contract work means they need to work on other titles first to get money to continue developing this game. Reminder that, if you're not familiar with Aspyr, they are typically developers behind ports and remasters and stuff like that. They have never made an entirely original game themselves. Now, you could argue that Knights of the Old Republic remake isn't an entirely original game because they're just remaking it, but the thing is, that game is pretty old. They would basically have to start over. The story, I think, is about all they would be able to pull in. Developers now say the far-off 2025 is more realistic for the Knights of the Old Republic remake. I would suggest that even itself is a bit ambitious, but anyway. Some people close to development also say that too much time and money was spent on the demo, so this is why they're having to take out more contract work, is that they spent a lot of money and development time just making the demo to wow Lucasfilm and Sony, and now they don't actually have enough money to finish the project. Saber Interactive, who are now a subsidiary of Embracer Group, and Saber Interactive are also the parent company of Aspyr. Weird nesting going on there, but okay. We're fully confident that the game is going to be fantastic, but it's a massive, massive product, and massive products require a lot of effort and a lot of time to make good. Another way of saying money. And especially when you're talking about a game that's already very old, we basically had to remake the game from scratch. So again, this is teething issues for a studio that don't normally take on giant projects like this. Like Knights of the Old Republic's a massive game, and to remake that for modern consoles with modern production values and so on, that's a lot of time, that's a lot of money. It was already surprising that Aspyr were even thinking about doing it, because it's absolutely not something they've done before. But you gotta start somewhere. Personally wouldn't have started on such a huge game, but Anyway, it is on indefinite hold, so don't expect that anytime soon, or at all, really. Indefinite hold with a company that doesn't have the experience for it, and who is struggling to get the money for it. I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. And then finally, for updates at least, Lord of the Rings Gollum has been delayed, but only for a few months for a little bit of polish. So it was previously going to be coming out on September 1st, 2022. It has now been delayed a couple of months to next year, I think. I don't think an actual date was given for when. No, by a few months is all that's all that's said there, which probably will be like final quarter of this tax year, which will be like March or something of next year. Okay, there are a shit ton of games coming out, that's alright. I'm not even particularly looking forward to Gollum, so whatever. It's telling a story that I don't think really needs to be told. It's meant to be set alongside Fellowship of the Ring. This is Gollum trying to get back. Like, is when he's been captured, or maybe it's before he's been captured. He's trying to recover the ring anyway. But I think this is before he knows Frodo has it. He's trying to, like... Maybe he does know Frodo has it, and this is just the bit where he's catching up to them from when he escapes... When he escapes Sauron's soldiers, and then catches up with Frodo. I think it's that time period is the story they're trying to tell, which is like... He walked a lot. Is there more to it than that? I don't think so. Okay. Alright, it is not quite the start of a new month, but both Sony and Microsoft have put out what their monthly games for this for August are going to be. So over on PlayStation, for PlayStation Plus, there's going to be Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the 7th, I think, installment in the Yakuza series, but it's starring a new protagonist and has a completely new game style. So art direction is still the same. It's still going for this kind of realistic sort of Tokyo slice of life Yakuza stuff. But the way the gameplay actually plays out, the way combat plays out, is not like previous Yakuza entries. Previous Yakuza entries were action-adventure type things. Real-time combat, brawler style. You know, it's like the next iteration of stuff like Streets of Rage, things like that. Whereas Yakuza Like a Dragon is a turn-based combat thing, which is a very strange approach and was initially believed to be an April Fool's prank. And I think actually was meant to be an April Fool's prank until they saw that people were like, yeah, let's do this. This looks amazing. And they went, okay, let's make that a game then, I guess. I don't know. I think they had planned to make it a game anyway. But yeah, it's a turn-based game, and I've only played a little bit of it, but I very much liked what I played, and I have been considering like doing the Yakuza series on the channel, but that's a lot of games. It's the 7th Yakuza, but I think there's like 10 overall. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of Yakuza games, and they're all very big games, so I don't know. But anyway, that's one of them. PlayStation Plus. Also, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, so the new HD remakes of the Tony Hawk games. Tony Hawk's games, I guess? I don't know. But you know what it is. You know what it is. It's third-person skating stuff. Chances are you are already well aware of these games, probably already have them. Question of why they'd be on PlayStation Plus, but there you go. That's what that is. Why is there a fucking alien in there? Anyway. And then the final one is Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares is a side-scrolling physics puzzler. Yeah, that makes sense. It's a pretty grim, almost kind of Tim Burton-y type thing where you're playing this tiny character in a world or area that is made for much bigger people who are intent on capturing them back and eating them, basically. It seems to be you are in an area that seems to delight in eating tiny creatures. And you don't want to be eaten, and that's kind of the gist of it. It's all very creepy, very atmospheric, and it's a very good game. Also, might be on the channel at some point, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about what the next game for Holy Fables will be. Maybe Little Nightmares might be an idea. Alright, games with gold for August. So first up we have Calico, which is a kind of cozy, like a cat cafe management game, where you have this cat cafe, and you are trying to sort of rebuild its popularity and bring in cats, but also bring in other fluffy creatures like dogs, red pandas, and so on. And it's got a bit of like an Animal Crossing vibe to it. Polar bears that you are, I'm hoping, like helping the mother out and not trying to steal the polar bears. There's also a cat that's apparently as big as a horse. Giant dog. I don't know if you're a tiny. Okay, you must be a tiny person. Anyway, that's Calico. It seems cozy enough, if not extremely weird in some other cases. The fuck is going on here? Anyway, that's Calico, and then Scourgebringer is a side-scrolling hack and slashery type thing. So if you think of like, there's a bit of Dead Cells, there's a bit of Strider, there's a bit of Castlevania kind of going on, where it's very fast-paced, slashy type of game. That has passed me by because I don't think I've ever seen anything about this. I might check that out. Because as far as I'm aware, it's also part of the PlayStation Plus catalog. So yeah, I don't know. I might give that one a look. Anyway, that's Scourgebringer. And then I think what are going to be the last games for 360 that are going to show up on Games with Gold. So first is Saints Row 2. Obviously the sequel to Saints Row. This is when Saints Row was still, I think, trying to be somewhat serious and not go completely crazy with its over-the-top shenanigans that Saints Row 3, Saints Row 4 and so on played off, and the reboot is still also kind of playing off. So this is still trying to be GTA, kinda. Like, if you could see that it was starting to get crazy in Saints Row 2 and then just went full-blown nuts in Saints Row the 3rd. There you go, Saints Row 2. And then Monaco, What's Yours Is Mine is a top-down heist game. It can be played cooperatively, it can be played single player, and so on. It's not a great looker, but the gameplay is a lot of fun. Like, you are essentially trying to steal things in this kind of top-down maze-like areas. You have different classes, different characters that can do different things. You've got some that are like locksmiths. You've got some that are cleaners, so they're better at killing people, and people that are more stealthy, and so on. And you can obviously combine that with other people. You can play online cooperatively or couch co-op. I think it has couch co-op. And that's the kind of game that is. There is also a sequel that kind of takes this and like really improves upon it. The art style for the second one is a lot prettier to look at. Anyway, that's the monthly games for August. We aren't quite in August just yet, but you know, by the time, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are. So I guess that works out. Alright, new releases for this week. So games you can play right now. So first up is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So the third entry in the Xenoblade Chronicles series, Nintendo JRPGs. We have played the first one in its entirety on the channel already, and we have just started Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 kind of takes story elements from both of them and kind of smashes them together, and somehow the two worlds are overlapping in some way. That is not immediately obvious, but we're definitely seeing these kind of head-winged people who only appeared in the first game, and then we've got these more cat-like people who only appeared in the second game, and so on, but not Bonner in both. So, you know, there's obviously some weirdness going on. And they've also all have these tattoos that are a bit Final Fantasy 13, a little bit. I wonder if they took a little bit more than inspiration from that kind of storyline, but I guess we'll see. Also along that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is that while the party hasn't necessarily gotten bigger, the number of them that can actually participate in combat is enormous now. It's like 6 to 7 people can all fight in combat all at once. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 kind of had that in that every party member was essentially a pair. It was always 2 people for every 1 slot, if you like. So I guess it's not as big, or it's not as nuts, but still kind of nuts. Anyway, it'll be a while before I get around to playing this, because I'm going to play the second one on the channel. We are currently playing it right now, and then there's the DLC for that, and then I'm probably going to want to take a break before I jump into the third one. So it's going to be a while for me. But if you want to play it, it's right there for you right now. And then Multiversus, I don't think it's actually out. I just think it has its open beta now. So if you wanted to, you could play it now. So Multiversus is the Warner Brothers Smash Bros. Warner Smash Bros, I guess. Smash Warner Bros, I don't know. So the different IPs that Warner Brothers owns. So the DC, that's why you're seeing Batman, Harley Quinn, Superman, Wonder Woman. I think that's it. I don't think they have anybody else in there. Steven Universe is in there, Bugs Bunny, Taz, Rick and Morty I think are in there, or I think they're to be unlocked or something like that. Arya Stark from Game of Thrones. It seems a bit out of place, but okay. Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, and so on. Anyway, there's a lot of different Warner Brothers characters in there, and more to be added as the game goes on. We've also got the Iron Giant involved in violence again, which is not what he should be involved in, but okay. Whatever. Okay. With all the fun stuff out of the way, it is now time to talk about the worst parts of video games. Video game industry. So, games industry biz that has had a website makeover. That's why it looks different than it used to. This is James Batchelors, who had an interview with Stefan Dastus. I don't know. It's French. I don't know how to say his name. Or it's Quebecois, I think. I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, this is them talking about how Square Enix handled their Western studios. So this would be Eidos Montreal, Crystal Dynamics. There was the third one, but I can't remember the name of it, unfortunately. So, first off, we're opening up with like Square Enix selling off what should have been like pretty strong IP and some pretty good developers for very little money. It was only 300 million, which is, I know that sounds like a shit ton of money, but for what they were getting, that was a bargain. That was ridiculous. That's more than a bargain. That's like suspect. What are you not telling me here? So you have people calling them like, what the fuck's going on? Should we really be worried about this? Should I be looking for another job somewhere? What's happening here? The shock news that Square Enix had sold Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal, that was the other one, plus all the IP the trio of the studios collectively held to Embracer Group for a bewilderingly low $300 million. Ridiculously low for what they were getting there. That's ridiculous. That's Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, Legacy of Kain, Thief, that's so many really good IPs that granted haven't been particularly well served recently, but still, they've got a lot of sway there. Anyway, his interview is quite long. It kind of goes into the history of Stefan with the different studios, what he was like with Eidos pre-Square Enix, and that it was like the development team was really good, but the marketing wasn't particularly strong. People at the top over in the London headquarters were, not great on making decisions, so projects were left to meander and kind of, lose a bit of strength and so on. The idea was that when Square Enix took over, they would put manners on people, and we would start, getting some decent marketing, start getting some decent project management and so on. And a development team that was already strong could just focus on development and not on all of the other stuff. But it turns out that's not what happened. Square Enix wanted money, but they didn't want to actually put in any effort to do that. So talking about why Eidos Montreal was created in the first place, it was created about roughly 2 years before the Square Enix purchase. So Eidos Montreal was brought on to basically facilitate Eidos's older IPs that weren't seeing any new iterations. But Eidos, I think London, wanted to see more of those games on, so Montreal was brought on. Was there to save the back catalogue, basically. It was clear that we had great IPs that were sleeping on the shelf. Legacy of Kain was discussed, but wasn't as strong as Deus Ex and Thief. Well, fuck you. Deus Ex is strong, or Legacy of Kain is stronger than Thief, at least, I would think. But no, they decided to go with Deus Ex and Thief. Deus Ex Human Revolution was very well received, great critical response, and more crucially, marketing response. It sold really well. Thief, on the other hand, did not, which is, I think, when Square Enix swooped in and bought them. So Square Enix has become notorious for declaring multi-million selling games to be disappointments. So this is when they said, like, the Tomb Raider reboot that made more than like any other Tomb Raider or something at the time was somehow a disappointment, or the Hitman reboots were somehow a disappointment, and so on. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Stefan says he recalls a meeting regarding the company's financial performance for 2012, where the Eidos group of studios was expected to generate $65 million in profit. Instead, he was told the developers had lost $65 million that year. We were dumbfounded, he says, especially because my studio didn't have any deliverables for that year. How could we have lost money? We didn't even put anything out. We weren't even meant to be putting anything out. What are your forecasts talking about? fan repeatedly called on management in London to do something about this, only to receive silence. In their annual fiscal reports, Square Enix Japan always added one or two phrases saying we were disappointed with certain games, they didn't reach expectations, and they did that strictly for games that were done outside of Japan, so they never said that for their own homegrown stuff. It was only for their Western studios. Stefan left Eidos Montreal in 2013. Crystal Dynamics studio head Daryl Gallagher left at the end of 2015. In 2017, IO Interactive successfully negotiated a management buyout, including the Hitman IP, and they have flourished since then. After Square Enix began looking for a buyer, even the group's biggest success, the rebooted Tomb Raider trilogy, was in decline. We shouted the Tomb Raider, not getting great reviews, and then Marvel's Avengers happened. So that is a trend from 2013 on of Square Enix Western Studios just going this way down. It was train wreck in slow motion, etc., etc. Why did they take on Marvel's Avengers? Because traditionally in video games there aren't many successful superhero games, just two, Batman and Spider-Man, and that's it. The rest of them have done very poorly. So why take on the superheroes is probably because at the time that the deal was made, Marvel was at its zenith. There's fatigue with them now, but at the time people were super hyped about Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and so on. The thing is, games take a really long time to make, so the fatigue had very much set in, and then the game itself was refashioned to become a live service instead of keeping it as just a fun multiplayer game, which is where they should have kept it at, but whatever. And then he kind of finishes off with an interesting rumor that I had not heard. Or rather, if I had heard it from anybody else, I would have thought he might have some, insider knowledge about these kind of things. But I heard rumors that Sony said they were really interested in Square Enix Tokyo, but not the rest. So I think Square Enix CEO Yosuke Matsuda put it like a garage sale. So they were looking to offload their Western studios to make themselves more appealing to Sony. 1 second, there is a bot in the channel. Okay. Alright, he's gone. Or they're gone. I don't know. I shouldn't gender the bot, I suppose. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought here. Okay, yeah, so the end of this is basically saying, okay, so how do you think the Embracer Group will handle these studios, Eidos Montreal, Crystal Dynamics, Square Enix Montreal, which are presumably not going to be called Square Enix Montreal anymore. He's not particularly hopeful for the future. Mostly he's saying, hey, Hitman did great when they lost the Square Enix yoke, why couldn't Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics do the same? And kind of pointing out in that IO Interactive knew what they were making. They've been making Hitman for a very long time, and they're like, we know how to do Hitman, just get out of the way and we will make Hitman. We don't need our hands held to do this. We can do it ourselves. Go away. And the Embracer Group is all about going away. They're all about do whatever you want. We'll give you the money for it, and as long as you keep making us money, we'll leave you alone. He's not confident Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics can do that because the London headquarter people have basically been the same for the last 15 years or so, with no change. So the same decisions they were making back then, which saw them getting bought out by Square Enix and then being sold off by Square Enix, it's the same people in the same positions making the same decisions. So if the Embracer Group can come in and sort of put manners on them, like the upper management, and leave the development studios alone, great. But if they can't, then we're just going to see more of the same, which is IPs languishing and not much happening. But the rest of the interview, it's all really interesting stuff. It's really behind the scenes kind of things. And yeah, he hasn't been part of the studio since 2013, so he wasn't there when Square Enix were in charge. But again, he knows a lot of people who were, people reaching out to him, and he was pretty high up, founder. So I guess he would have a pretty good idea of what's happening there. Okay, so this is kind of following on from Bungie's lawsuit against a player for being a piece of shit and, threatening harm to developers and community managers and so on. But Bungie says it's reduced communication with players due to real threats towards staff. So this is kind of following on from the Reddit and the subreddit and the Discord server for Bungie, and is basically saying that community and developers are, not as active as much as they used to be. They're not like responding to people and so on, noting that Bungie was responding to users far less frequently. When user replied, "That's what happens when developers receive harassment and death threats over a video game." Not surprising really. The community manager did come back to say that the situation had gone beyond merely rude remarks and had escalated to threats. Here's the thing, the harassment we've spoken to isn't just rude replies on Twitter or vague comments. There have been real threats towards our people and our studio. We are taking them seriously, which is leading to an amount of reduced communications as the team plans future protections and strategies to help avoid these sorts of things. I would be very clear in saying that I appreciate the studio and the amount that it's helped me personally after some serious harassment towards me and my family. I'm taking time off in part because of this. Again, that's why you're not hearing from the community manager. Just because you can't see it directly in a given tweet or forum reply doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Again, unless you have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the possible communications that's happening between Bungie and its different players or not players and people who are just harassing them, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes and the death threats they're getting. So, what they're saying is that this is like temporary while they put in safeguards for this kind of thing. What those safeguards are, I don't know what they could be. Since they can't, they can't necessarily control who's on Reddit and who's on Discord, they may end up having to do more in-house stuff. Like a lot of studios and developers have pushed their community stuff off their own websites, off their own servers. They're being done through Twitter or Discord or Reddit or whatever it is, but they don't really have their own forums anymore, where they would have had control over moderation, de-anonymizing people, being able to actively go after them for this kind of shit. Whereas they obviously don't have that control over Reddit. They would have to ask Reddit for that kind of information, and Reddit will not give it, obviously, legally. They're, one, not required, and two, I think it would actually be illegal for them to do it. They'd have to go through law enforcement to get a warrant, and there's a lot of barriers in the way for that kind of thing. Whereas if they had kept them all on their own websites, inside their own forums, while that's a lot of extra work, it's a lot of overhead, it's a lot of money to keep those servers going, you have to employ a moderation team and so on, you would have a lot more control over this kind of thing. So that's kind of the issue with it being third-party based. It's that, a lot of websites had kind of the same thing, for a different reason, but they had, you used to be able to comment underneath like every article for a good while. And that obviously turned into a cesspit of just shitheads and bots and racists and so on. So people were like, well, okay, we don't want that on our website anymore. We don't want our moderators to have to be dealing with it. We don't want the authors of the articles, who would typically also have to moderate their own comments, being like, I don't want to put up with these people anymore. So you know what, let's just push them out to our Facebook channel or to our Twitter and so on, and we'll leave them there. And use Twitter's tools, who do like algorithmically blocking people for harassment and what have you. Again, it's haphazard. You don't have the kind of laser focus you would have of, one, I own the domain already, I can block IPs and so on if it really needs to come to that. I have their email address because they signed up with an account and so on. You have a lot more avenues for blocking people. You don't have that with third party, so it's, I don't know how Bungie will handle that unless they basically say officially we'll pull back out of the Discord and the Reddit and we'll just confine it to Bungie.com or whatever. On the other hand, Sony own Bungie now, so they may have better tools for this kind of thing. I doubt it, but they might. Okay, over to Activision, and this is not about them being shithead sexual harassment people. Instead, now they're just plagiarists. So, Artist claims Call of Duty plagiarized its upcoming Loyal Samoyed skin. Now, this is not the first time Call of Duty has been called, for plagiarizing skins. It's happened before. So they have precedent for some shit like this, but an artist claims that not all of the upcoming skin reveals belong to the studio. Shortly after the skin's reveal, which I'll show you in a minute, the artist shared their original work and allegations, while Raven removed images of the dog from its communication. So the dog, Floof Fury Tracer, is a new skin for a particular character in Call of Duty. I don't know. Call of Duty has furries now, apparently. I don't know. always thought it was about like historical warfare. Apparently it isn't, but whatever. So on the right, in these kind of screen caps, these are from the trailer that Activision put out, and on the left is the artist's original ArtStation artwork, which is dated a full 2 years before this trailer. And as you can see, that's pretty copied, right? There's some like one or two changes, but for the most part, that's pretty identical, right? So the Samui Medical concept was posted 2 years ago, predating the trailer by quite a bit. And not only that, but there are other concepts for different types of dog. Like there's a bulldog, Shiba, and a Doberman for different kind of like military operator style things. So clearly they had an idea they were working their way through. Raven and Activision side of things, they have not responded for request to comment. Raven or Activision have acknowledged these acquisitions, have acknowledged these, and not only that, but they have scrubbed the whole thing from the trailers, communications, blog posts, and so on. You can't find this now on any of their official communications. The only way you can find it now is with the Wayback Machine. So yeah, either this is a case of, oops, we fucked up, which seems a little difficult to manage, or they've talked to whoever their internal artist was meant to handle these skins and gone like, did you fucking copy this guy? Did you copy this guy? Or there could be a lawsuit pending here, and they're just covering their tracks to check, how legally exposed they are for something like this. And it might come back, it might not. But either way, they've done this before. So clearly they have an artist in Raven Software who is not an artist and is just copying other people. Okay, speaking of companies that have horrible sexual harassment history, Riot have had their settlement approved by a judge, so it's $100 million in a gender discrimination lawsuit settlement that will go to more than 1,000 women who were part of the class action. So California judge has approved Riot Games, meaning more than okay. So other than paying out to more than 1,000 women who will receive between 4 to 5 figures, this will also include, as part of the settlement, that they will have to appoint an independent contractor who will monitor and investigate any pay disparities, and the findings will have to be acted on. So it's not a case of, yeah, thanks for that, throw it away. Legally, they are required to act on any of the suggestions. Question whether they're actually suggestions anymore, but okay. Studio has also been told to hire up to 40 qualified women currently working in temporary positions and to hire them on as full-time positions. So no more of this temporary contractor shit. Make them full-time employees so they have the benefits and so on. Speaking to Axios, one of the plaintiffs said, "My hope is that this serves as a wake-up call for the whole industry." It won't. We've set a precedent that the sexist behavior that runs rampant at gaming companies is unacceptable, and when companies are unwilling to address it themselves in a meaningful way, women have options to get justice. So it's a bit shit that they've had to go through the justice system to get this kind of thing done, and not just, hey, can you not be a piece of shit while I'm working here, and maybe don't do that. The class action lawsuit was originally filed in 2018, so it's taken 4 years for this to come by, and it followed an expose by Kotaku on the discrimination, harassment, and abuse occurring at the studio. Similarly, another thing was Activision in hot water as well, Ubisoft in hot water, and so on. The legal dispute was originally settled for $10 million, which is fucking ridiculous, before the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, the same people going after Activision for pretty much the exact same stuff, pushed for a much larger settlement. They suggested $400 million, but as we know now, it was instead settled for $100. So certainly a massive up from the $10 million that they were trying to get away with over to $100 million. Not quite the $400 million, but I guess you got to start high and meet in the middle, but whatever. So yeah, there's some accountability, I guess. $100 million is not to be sniffed at, but on the other hand, we're talking Riot, who are the people behind League of Legends, Valorant, and so on. Question how much of a dent that has made in their profits or what have you. But anyway, speaking of shithead companies again, Ubisoft. So this is more of a, hey, what's happening with Ubisoft? Have they done anything about their toxic workplace or what have you? I mean, we checked in with Activision last week and they hadn't done anything, but surely Ubisoft have done something right now. They haven't done fucking nothing either. A year ago today, the A Better Ubisoft group penned an open letter in solidarity with Activision Blizzard, which was the A Better ABK group workers, which also called out Ubisoft's own management for its handling of misconduct scandals in the past. Since then, they've done fuck all. The group says its demands for changes have not been met, despite Ubisoft boss Yves Guillemot vowing he would do everything in his power to ensure that everyone feels welcomed, respected, and safe. Either he has no power or he forgot. Or no intention of doing any of those things, but what have you. In a recent Twitter thread, the group revealed that 25% of those who signed its letter 12 months ago have since left the company. So they've seen nothing has changed in the year that they signed this. They're like, well, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm either going to go work for a different developer or I'm just going to leave the industry entirely, which is also something that happens quite a lot. It's kind of self-fulfilling, really. You get more marginalized people come in, try to work through it, try to play the game, eventually just get worn out, burned out, and go, you know what, I'm just not going to go into game development anymore. I'm out of here. I'm going to go into just standard software development. It's much easier. Not that this kind of harassment and abuse doesn't happen everywhere. It does, but it's not quite as bad as it is in the games industry. Anyway, with these people leaving, it now means that Ubisoft is only 25%. Women only represent 25% of Ubisoft's entire global workforce, which is not how the world works. It's pretty much 50-50, which means any company you're in should also be pretty much 50-50, unless there's a very specific reason for it. Following the statement, it once more laid out the claims that it made out last year. Stop promoting and moving known offenders from studio to studio, so stop doing the Catholic Church thing where you just move the priest around. Actually punish people. We want a collective seat at the table to have a meaningful say in how Ubisoft as a company moves forward, which is union. Cross-industry collaboration to agree a set of ground rules and processes that all studios can use to handle these offenses in the future, which is a union for the whole gaming industry and not just per company, basically. The collaboration must heavily involve employees and non-management positions and union representatives, which again, union. This is the workers should own the means of production kind of thing, which is obviously not happening because it's the shareholders own the means of production. Right. Speaking of shitty companies, industry bullshit is all about speaking about shitty companies. Meta have decided to just arbitrarily add $100 to the price of the Oculus for no reason. Well, no, they gave a reason, but the reason is bullshit. But anyway, starting in August, so it's too late now. If you wanted to get a cheaper one, tough. At least second-hand, you'll probably still be able to do it, but if you're trying to buy a first-hand model of the Oculus Quest, Oculus Quest 2 rather, it's now going to be an additional $100 for no real reason. So it's gone up from $300 to $400 or $400 to $500 depending on which capacity version you're going for. They're pretty considerable price increases. Kind of pointed out here, we're talking about a 33 to 25% increase in the price for bullshit, basically. The bullshit reason is the cost to make and ship our products has gone up. It's gone up by $100 per headset. No, it hasn't. Fuck off. And this is the usual conspiracy that it's been told, that it's a conspiracy theory that companies are massively raising their prices and using inflation and the war in Ukraine as a cover to just absolutely price gouge. Like, it's not. Inflation is not 25%. Inflation is like 10% or something like that right now. Where are you getting this extra $100 from? That is ridiculous. This is doubly a problem because the Oculus is like one of the only decent, relatively cheap, like, what do you call it? Entry device into VR, because the rest of them are incredibly expensive and you'll also still need a pretty high-end PC to run. So they kind of sort of have a bit of a monopoly on the market because of that. And I'm not the only person to think that, because the Federal Trade Commission also thinks they have a bit of a monopoly on the VR market. So shots fired at Facebook's VR monopoly. So Meta is being sued by the Federal Trade Commission over its monopoly in VR tech. The FTC is seeking an injunction against the company's attempted takeover of Within. Within is a VR game developer who make a game called Supernatural. It's more of like a VR app, I suppose, which is like a workout app, but it just puts up, like boxing mini games, things for you to punch, things for you to kick, things for you to jump over, that kind of stuff. The agency has called it an illegal acquisition to expand Meta's virtual reality empire. Meta have instead said that they've claimed in a statement that the FTC's argument is based on ideology instead of evidence. So they're just saying that the FTC is just wholly against Meta getting any bigger at all, no matter what. Whereas Meta are basically saying, this is like one of the biggest apps on your store right now and you're trying to buy it. Which is also a problem because did you know, because I didn't know, did you know Meta owned Beat Saber? I didn't know that. When did that happen? But yeah, they own like the most popular VR game as well. So not only they're not content to own pretty much the only platform people play VR on, certainly a considerable amount of the market, which we'll find out just how much in a second here. They own the store that all of those things go on, the Oculus store, because that's where you buy all the software. They own the most popular game on that store, and now they want to own the most popular app on that store. Yeah, that's monopoly, guys. Okay, it's a perfect. So why the FTC go after them for this in particular, and not like all of the other acquisitions they've had before that? Because remember, Instagram and WhatsApp for Facebook used to be independent. They used to not be owned by Facebook. Instagram used to be its own thing, its own company. WhatsApp used to be its own company, and then Facebook bought them. This is quite the consolidation issue. So why go after them for this particular thing? It's a perfect target for rolling back the clock on years of lax enforcement. So basically they're like, okay, we've let way too much in. We've hand waved too many of these things, and now these companies have gotten way too big and way too consolidated is the issue. In that a lot of the software space is dominated by like 4 companies. That's it. Really, if we're really competitive, this should be considerably more splintered than that. There should be a messaging company. Several of them that are all competing against each other, not just like 3, Because of these failures and others, the FTC and the DOJ are now scrambling to play catch-up, spending enormous time and resources on lawsuits to try to unwind deals and stop monopoly abuses. This is from Ron Knox, who's a researcher at the Anti-Monopoly Institute for Local Self-Reliance. So, how much of the market does the Oculus have? So, in 2020, it had 62% of the VR market. Pretty considerable, right? It now has 75% of the market, which is, big. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big size of the market. And then this kind of further monopoly, and then their additional $100, just randomly, fuck you, extra $100, you'll pay it, has basically forced the FTC to be like, okay, fuck you. And again, one of the most popular VR games ever, Beat Saber, Meta bought them in 2019, apparently. I don't remember that happening, but okay. All of these things have led to a lessening of competition, which violates antitrust laws. So this is, or at least the FTC feel that this is violating antitrust and monopoly laws. So yeah, that's what they're that's their angle for it. And then this extra article, I think, is just kind of shoehorned into video games, really, or it's kind of try to loosely tie it to the Activision Microsoft merger, which isn't quite the same thing. It's kind of the same. I see where they're coming from with it. That Microsoft, rather than making their own stuff, is just buying popular things and consolidating themselves. Buying Activision and all their IPs, buying Bethesda and all their IPs, buying Obsidian, Ninja Theory, In Exile. Not just make your own stuff. Bought Minecraft, etc. That is an argument that hey, maybe Microsoft's getting a little too big in gaming. Sony similarly buying Bungie and so on. How about you make your own stuff? Stop buying other IPs and consolidating the market, because it's bad. It's bad for consumers. So that's where the FTC is coming from. Speaking of VR shenanigans, though, VRChat bans all mods. Just all of them. All the mods. leaving disabled players and community feeling abandoned. Yeah, as you might imagine, because why? Why did you just arbitrarily done it now? Let's see why. VRChat, following a disruptive update that banned all mods. The mod ban accompanies the integration of easy anti-cheat. There you go, that's why they want to put in bullshit DRM into their game. Well after it's come out. Why? The horse has left the barn. It's past the horizon. You can't even see it anymore. Why put DRM in now? VRChat staff member Tupper revealed that they expected the update to be rolled out to all players within 24 hours. So this is them, one, announcing there was a beta to test the thing, and then within 24 hours it would be out to everybody. That's not a beta. That's like a slow release, basically. That's just your kind of typical ramp up in releases, that you'll release it like 5%. Everybody okay? Cool. 10%? Everything's still okay? Nobody's crashed? We're not getting any bug reports or anything? Okay, all right, 20%. How's that going? That's what that is. That's all. That's not a fucking beta. Anyway, unsurprisingly, many players have been vocal about their worries. VRChat has little to no native accessibility features, meaning that in less than a day, disabled players relying on accessibility mods would no longer be able to play. This is people who don't have too many social outlets. We're using VRChat as a social outlet because it was somewhat democratizing. You know, no one could see their disability or what have you. They could interact with people. You know, there was no barrier other than having to install these mods that they needed to fix. I don't know, I guess the barrier of the headset, but what have you. But they could chat and you know, have, you know, social interaction, fun with other people. And now, less than a day of notice, gone. Mods are all gone. Any of the stuff that would help them with their disabilities, gone. Can't be used. It seems the developer itself is trying to quash any kind of pushback on these kind of things, because posts on easy anti-cheat and the knock-on effect for accessibility mods quickly began to trend. In contrast, several users reported being banned from the Discord server for bringing up the resulting exclusion of disabled players, or even just raising a discussion about the update. So here's a lot of like, hey, I got banned, I've been banned, and so on. Following this, the app was review bombed on Steam, where it still sits at a recent rating of overwhelmingly negative. The VRChat subreddit is full of people cancelling their subscription and urging others to do the same, or just saying, hey, this other app does much the same thing and isn't fucking over its users. It's particularly bad if you're paying a subscription and suddenly you can't use it for the thing you were using it for. That's pretty bad. VRChat developers came back to say, we are reprioritizing corporate speak, but also we don't have plans to or intent to ever revert that or roll back those changes. They're here to stay. Fuck you and your mods. Okay. Disabled players are feeling the brunt of this update the most. They say they are now stuck with a game they cannot play, with no guidance on when the game will be made accessible to them, and no guaranteed way of making sure their needs are being listened to, because all of the communication or pushback or negativity about it is being quashed, whatever. People are being banned for even talking about it. They have this security update thing where they're saying, yeah, we've heard you about your accessibility issues and we'll definitely fix that any minute now. Except the developers themselves apparently have a history of doing fuck all for what the users actually want. So, great. So, VRChat is notorious amongst its player base for its slow implementation of user-requested features. The vague, flimsy promise of a more accessible game at some point in the future isn't enough, users say, not when a community has already built those modifications for themselves, and not when that accessibility is taken away from them overnight with less than 1 day's notice. This is just textbook how to lose your users. How to lose your users in 1 day, more or less. I hope that DRM will work well. Okay. Finish off with some kind of dumb things that have been happening elsewhere in the video game world. So, there's a video that was put up earlier in the week. Nier Automata, one player, had said, hey, did you guys know there was a church in Nier Automata? And they showed this bit where they jump down into an area called the Copied City, and there's this door. Now, not the door that's being shown in this GIF. There's a door earlier in the video sequence that seems to blend in with the rest of the area. It's not obvious that there's a door there. There's no interaction option. It's not highlighted on the map, anything like that. Normally in the game, if there are doors, the minimap would kind of show you that there's a door there, or if you got close to it, there would be a prompt to open the door and so on. None of that is in the video. You just go up, press the interact button, and they open a door. And this, understandably, Nier Automata, Nier in general, has a very layered, very intricate story. And any small hints that show up anywhere in the storyline are massively blown out of proportions. People go nuts for this kind of stuff, myself included. I was definitely like, the fuck, is there seriously a church in there? And it turns out no, there isn't. It's a mod. So yeah, everyone in the Nier Automata space was like, wow, I can't believe nobody found this in 5 years. This is insane. Maybe was this patched in recently? No, this is running on 1.0. What the fuck? Where did that come from? Hang on, why is there stuff from Nier Replicant in the game? That's weird. That shouldn't be there. That game didn't come out for another 4 years. You know, how come there are assets in there? And like, eventually it transpires that no, we got you fuckers. The whole area was work of 3 modders. Basically came on to say, actually this was just us showing or flexing our new modding tools. There had been a lot of restriction in modding on Nier Automata. There was only so much you could get away with doing, and they for a long time it was said you could never like add extra things on top. You could only change things that were already there. And these 3 modders basically were using this video to go, nope, that's not true. You can absolutely add new shit in, which they've done. And this is them showing it off. So it was a bit of a PR thing for their own modding, but also it got massively blown out of proportion. They were absolutely not expecting this. Towards the end, I figured most people thought it was a mod. I did not mean to mislead anyone, except you kind of did mean to. You did mean to mislead. You did mean for them to think that it was a thing. But anyway. So yeah, unfortunately, it's just a mod. But on the other hand, that's pretty cool mod. And there are going to be, I guess, all sorts of crazy shit coming down now for the Nier Automata mod scene. Now that these tools are going to be made, as the 3 modders have said, they're going to make the tools public, so anybody can make and just randomly add a church into the game for no reason, I guess. But yeah, it's somewhat like, this was nuts. And for a while, you were like, seriously? There's just this random thing that nobody found? And like, what else is in the game that nobody had found, etc. No, it's just a mod. It's like, oh, that would have been fun. They did try to get Yoko Taro in on it, but in his typical weirdness, he kind of highlighted people back to say, and he kind of does this a lot when people ask questions about the Nier series and so on. He goes, I will refer you to my bio on these kind of things, and his bio just says, I'm not allowed to talk about these things. Stop asking me. And when people were pushing him out, he was just like, I like sausages and hot dogs and stuff, and he was like, not going to be pulled on it whatsoever, which is very Yoko Taro. But anyway. Okay, we'll put on... Right, anyway, that was the news for... Where'd you play? Play? No? Play, okay. That was the news for the 25th to 31st of July, 2022. So, some interesting stuff from Annapurna. A lot of it is coming soon, or only beginning development, or only beginning production right now. So it'll be a while before we get anything new out of that kind of thing. The Lost Wild game they showed off, you know, the dinosaur survival game, looked really interesting. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye on that one, and hopefully it isn't too survivally. You know, it's not too, you need to drink every 10 seconds, and you know, you need to find food, and you know, your wooden stick has suddenly lost its durability and what have you. Like, as long as it doesn't go down that end and sticks more with the survival horror end of things, cool. I'll go with that. Like, if it goes with a PT kind of thing, or Amnesia or Outlast or something like that, yeah, cool. Like, I don't mind. Like, I don't really like the cat and mouse survival horror games, and the way survival horror has gone in the last 10 years or so is that cat and mouse, you need to hide from a roaming enemy and, you know, wait for them to not be looking so you can get through this door, etc. And like, I hate that. It's just slow. It's arbitrarily slow. It doesn't need to be in it, and I would rather you just made it a cutscene and just let me enjoy the the horror atmosphere and don't force this arbitrary shitty stealth. Like, first person stealth is bad. IMO. I don't like it. I've never liked first person stealth. It doesn't work properly, in my opinion. Very few games have done it right. The only couple of games that have done it right have a third person version instead. Like Deus Ex, first person stealth. Instead, you go into third person when you're in cover and stuff like that. So I prefer that end of things. I really don't like first person stealth. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. PlayStation VR stuff is just confirming that, yeah, they're pretty much making a PlayStation Oculus. I think is what a lot of people were already assuming is what it was going with. It already looked a lot like an Oculus in the first place. Granted, most VR headsets look pretty much the same. They're just different colors and, I don't know, they've got different cases, I guess, but they are all functionally pretty much the same. I don't know, I could be completely wrong about that, but that certainly seems the sense. And I wouldn't think Sony would try to go the extreme high end of things, because it would price most of their customers out of the market for it. So yeah, fine. It's using much of what Oculus already does. So they're going for much the same thing, an entry-level VR thing that will work in and around the same price point as the PS5 console. So yeah, no problems there. Let's see, the Old Republic getting indefinitely delayed is obviously not great. I was pretty hyped for that, honestly, and I guess didn't pay too much attention to the developer behind this or their history. Looking back on it now, it seems kind of obvious that they were going to have problems, because, you know, they are not well known for these kind of games, or not for these kind of games. They're not well known for from the ground up development. They're typically remasterers and porters peoples. So anyway, that's not great news, but there you are. Monthly games. As far as I'm aware, all of the ones on PlayStation Plus's monthly games were already part of the PlayStation Plus catalog for Extra and Premium. So there's no new games for me, basically. And I already owned, even before the PlayStation Plus catalog, I already owned Like a Dragon and Little Nightmares. So whatever. And I don't care about Tony Hawk's. Anyway, and Xbox Games with Gold. I don't own an Xbox. So whatever. Calico looks like it's an early access game, to be honest. It looks like it's not finished, but it is, which isn't great. What was the other game? Scourgebringer looked interesting. I think it's in the PlayStation catalog. I might give that a look. And then whatever, the 360 game. Saints Row 2 is the boring Saints Rows. I know a lot of people like Saints Row 2 and didn't like that Saints Row went all zany and crazy. And for them, Saints Row 2 is, you know, a preferred game, but if you want that, just play Grand Theft Auto. Really? They were just copying Grand Theft Auto. Anyway. And industry bullshit stuff, like, it's not surprising that Square Enix mishandled their Western studios, because they've been mishandling their own studios for a long time now, so it's not exactly surprising. Their last 15 years or so of Square Enix has been disappointing, to say the least. Final Fantasy XIV notwithstanding, I kind of feel like there are developers in there who are working around them rather than working with them. And yeah, the Nier Church. Disappointing that it's not a real thing, but I guess it was nuts to think that something so big would somehow be not found in the last 5 years, but there we are. Anyway, we're going to move on and have a look at our channel update. So, channel update. I make this on the big screen. So, we have our game. I'm calling this a game mosaic. Not really a mosaic, but I'm calling it that, but whatever. This is our kind of, what do you call it? Path, yes, for the rest of the year. So Vampire done, Stray done, The Quarry's done, Deliver Us the Moon we finished this week. So that's completed. Batman started this week, so part 1. We actually got a lot of people in chat for that, which I was really happy about. It was great to be able to talk to like a lot of people at once. Now a lot I say is like 4 or 5 people, and that's a lot for the channel. Let's say we typically get 0, so that's nice. It's nice to have people in the chat for that. So I guess Batman's a popular one. Anyway, Man of Medan was started with Melwen. We're doing a cooperative run of that on Mondays. Maybe not this Monday because it's a bank holiday. And I think Melwen has holiday plans. I don't do anything. I'm always here. But Melwen might have holiday plans, so I don't know yet. Possibly. Keep an eye out on Twitter, we might have that. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we continued. So, as I said on Monday, as long as Melvin is around and is up for it, we will be doing, or continuing, the Man of Medan cooperative playthrough, which was beset by all sorts of technical issues at the beginning, as I knew it would be. Even with us doing like a practice thing, and we're like, everything seems okay, yeah, okay, let's go live. And it turns out everything was not okay. Things were a problem. I couldn't hear. Sorry, we could hear each other, but the chat couldn't hear us, or chat could hear one of us, but not both of us, and we were talking over each other, and when we talked, it drowned out the other person, and all sorts of bullshit. There's all sorts of weird audio toggles that needed to be toggled in the PlayStation backend to make it work. It was the first time I had streamed from PlayStation 5, so there were all sorts of things that I needed to set up ahead of time that I hadn't. And there's that. So, that's all fixed, is what I'm saying. So part 2 should be a lot smoother. It was a fun time. We have different like viewpoints, so we're not always in the same scene together. And even when we are in the same scene together, sometimes our characters see different things. There's some like hallucinations going on, and ghosts showing different things and what have you. So it's fun. And sometimes we're not even in the same room, and we're just seeing completely different scenarios and setups. Sometimes we are in the same room and we're actually looking directly at each other but still seeing something else on our different screens. So it's a fun one to have kind of both on like 2 separate screens if you have the luxury of something like that, and being able to see the 2 different viewpoints I think is fun. The VOD isn't out on YouTube yet, but it will be I think once the series, or once the thing is complete, we will put the whole thing live together and you can watch both sides if you want to. But that is Monday. Wednesday, as I said, we have finished Deliver Us the Moon, and I don't know what to play next. So instead, I'm going to play Stray. I'm going to do a challenge run of Stray, which is, I'm going to leave this to keep playing, I guess. I'm going to do a challenge run of Stray, the cat game. Once we played it week before last week, maybe. I pretty much just kept playing it and finished it, and then got a bunch of trophies, and I'm only 1 trophy away now from the platinum, and that trophy is the speedrun of the game. It's finished the game in under 2 hours. My Wednesday stream is typically under 2 hours, or around 2 hours at least. So I think it fits in perfectly there, considering I don't necessarily know what to play next. I think that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a challenge run of Stray and try to finish it in under 2 hours. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. But in the meantime, I need your help to pick the next Foley Fable. So I've narrowed it down to 4 games. You want to say which one looks the most interesting to you, or which one you think I'll enjoy more, or etc, etc. So the first one is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim from Vanillaware. This is a really good classic sci-fi game. These are these 13 Sentinels. The Sentinels are mechs, basically, that are controlled by these 13 anime school children. There's a lot of weird time travel and shenanigans happening. There's some that are coming from like World War I, World War II era Japan, some are from modern Japan, some are from far in the future Japan, and so on. And they have these sentinels that they are in control of that are fighting back against these otherworldly giant kaiju mech type things. That's the gameplay anyway, or the actual like in-game bit of it, but mostly, why is it a Foley Fable? Mostly it's a visual novel with a really interesting story. Really intricate, lots of characters all coming together, interweaving their stories together. I've only played a little bit of it, but from what I've read, the 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim story is very, very good. So I am definitely keen to play it, and would like to play it on the channel, but I might not. It depends on you guys. So that's one. Second one is Grim Fandango, because I am in a bit of a nostalgic mood, I guess. So Grim Fandango is one of my favorite adventure games from the LucasArts period of adventure games. There was a remaster, came out 5-6 years ago ish, where you are Manny Manuel Calavera, who is a Grim Reaper, the Grim Reaper company, corporation, what have you, service, who ferry people obviously to like the next life, but they have like all these different package deals, and Manny tried to get a really good package deal for this nun who came over, and should have got a really good deal, but for some reason their company has been embezzling all these golden tickets and living off in limbo, just living off a good life and not passing on. And the people they actually give the golden tickets to, some bad things happen to them. People who shouldn't have been getting golden tickets are getting golden tickets, and so on. But it might seem all grim and horrible and death and stuff. It's not. It's very funny. Like, it's from the same idea as like Monkey Island. Like, it's a very funny game, and I would like to play it again. So yeah, that's why that's there. But I of course have played it and finished it and know the game pretty well, so it might make for a pretty fun stream if I am. Well, to be fair, I don't know the puzzles that well anymore. This is Heaven's Vault, again, also a game I have played before and finished before, but finishing Heaven's Vault doesn't really mean anything because it really benefits more from multiple playthroughs, and I've only ever done one. So Heaven's Vault takes this archaeologist character who is trying to kind of fit together the story of this ancient civilization, as you kind of travel between lots of different planets. It's like very much an adventure game, point and click kind of thing, only it's not really a point and click. This is from Inkle, who make really good adventure games. They've made this, they've made 80 Days, which was like a procedural Phineas Fogg kind of game, and they made the game Overboard, which is like a reverse murder mystery game in that you're well aware who killed them. It was you, because you're trying to get away with it. And that is also somewhat procedural. No, actually, that's not procedural. But that's a kind of trial and error, how do I get away with murder kind of game. It's also very good. And Heaven's Vault is also very good. It has a language matching game where you are trying to decipher this language by using smaller, more obvious word pieces and trying to combine them to make more complicated words. You might have the word for person, and then you'll see that this symbol is like repeated a couple of times, and you'll say, okay, this collection means people, right? Or this collection means a crowd, or this collection means this is fire, and this means home. So if the two of them together means house fire, or firehouse, or firefighters, or something like that, you know? It's that kind of, you're not entirely sure you're right until much later on, and you go, okay, that actually doesn't make sense now, I need to change my assumption of what that word means, and so on. Heaven's Vault's really good, basically, is what I'm trying to say, and I would also very much like to play that. You can see why I'm having trouble picking a game. And then finally, a game I have not played at all, but I've heard good things about. This is The Council, which is a collection of people that span more than a human's lifetime. I forget the exact number of years, but it's enough for you to go, what's going on there? It was originally an episodic game, came out as 5 distinct episodes. It's now fully out. You can just get the whole season in one go. Whole game. It was only ever one season. And you make really difficult, narrative, moral choices on how the council goes about its business or something like that. Again, I don't know a whole lot about the story because I am intentionally I don't want to know too much about the story because I'd rather be in the dark as much as possible about it. But you've seen like some accolades and some blurbs about different people. Apparently it is a very good story. So again, I know nothing about the game other than there's some longer than a human life shenanigans happening here. So yeah, I'd be interested to play that too. So again, there's 4 games. I don't know which one. So I'm gonna give you guys a week. Give you guys a week to try to come to a consensus on which one you want to play. Maybe I'll put a Twitter poll up or something. Or you can just shout at me in the different chats for the other games that we're going to play this week. And let me know. So we have The Council, we have Heaven's Vault, we have Grim Fandango Remastered, and we have 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. I have played a bit of 13 Sentinels, but not finished it. I have played all the way through Grim Fandango many times. I have played one entire playthrough of Heaven's Vault, which was a very long time ago, and even that, playing it once doesn't mean anything. There are so many different story choices you can make that it doesn't matter that you played it once. And The Council, I have not played at all, even a little bit, not even just a tip. Haven't played it at all. So cool. Have a think, guys. Which one would you like to see? Okay, getting into the Thursday game though, we played Batman this week. It was part 1. It did really well, but I do want to stick with the coin toss idea. So it was Batman last time, so this is a choice between Bayonetta, which pretty much has one stream left in it, I would think. I don't think there's more than one stream left in Bayonetta. Or we keep going with Batman, which I've been having a lot of fun with. So which one do we think it is? It was Batman last, so that's why Batman is heads up. So Batman is heads, Bayonetta is tails. Batman, alright. Part 2 of Batman will be this week. Cool. Batman Arkham Asylum. We'll be running through that again. We are just about to enter, for people who have played the game already, or may know something about them already, we're about to hit a part that involves the Scarecrow. The first part that involves the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow bits of the Batman Arkham games are largely considered to be the best bits of the series. So much so that Arkham Knight has a lot of the Scarecrow because of that. For that exact reason. Because it's like the best bit. Anyway, we're pretty much right at that point. I had to stop at that point because I had to go to work the next day. But there you go. We're right there at the Scarecrow bit. So we'll check that out on Thursday. On Friday, we'll be doing another Foley Plays a game for a bit. So this is just when we do like a one shot. I pick a game that came out recently and we play it for a little bit. This is Severed Steel. It's a first person Hotline Miami kind of parkour game thing. The conceit is that your character only has one hand. On their other hand, they have a kind of Mega Buster, Mega Man, Metroid kind of thing. But it also means they can't reload quickly. So they don't. They just use the gun, throw it away, and pick up a new one. And they do all kinds of wall running and flips and jumping over people in slow-mo. So it's a lot of fun. And it's very fast. And I'm still wondering whether or not it has the Ghost Runner take, in that you die if you get hit at all. It's like, you'll look cool until you get hit, and then you won't look cool anymore. Or do you like have a bit of health and it's not quite as punishing? Like Hotline Miami has the same idea. It's like you pretty much have one hit point in Hotline Miami as well. So we'll see. Definitely there's a lot of different gun variety. And it's a very fast-paced game. So we'll see how that goes. And Saturday we will be continuing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I got pretty pissed off at the end of yesterday's stream, mostly because I was just trying to go to the next part of the game. I was just trying to go to the next story beat of the game. And the way Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sets up its open world, and Xenoblade Chronicles 1 does this as well, but I kind of felt like it was easier to avoid it. You have level appropriate enemies, and then level inappropriate enemies all mixed in together. So you've got, like, we're in and around level 15 characters right now. So we're fighting some level 15, 16, 17 enemies, and then we have level 70, level 90 enemies that are just there and can just wander into battle and one-shot you immediately. And it is particularly annoying when I'm trying to walk in a straight line to go to the next part of the story, and I'm getting one-shotted by this giant heap, you know? It's not entirely the game's fault. I did make some mistakes and was getting frustrated, so I was wandering into places that I absolutely shouldn't have been going, and if I wasn't pissed off, I would have noticed that. But yeah, I was too pissed off at the time, so I didn't notice it. But whatever, we have found the next part of the story. I know where it is now. They're saved sitting right outside of it, so it should be okay. It should be plain sailing from here on, I hope. We also have a full party now, or not a full party, but enough to put out a full combat team, we'll say. So I'll be able to do some grinding in between, so we won't have to stop and fight every single enemy along the way. Which I like doing, but I appreciate doesn't make for a particularly entertaining stream. So I am happy enough to do that myself off stream, and we'll just spend the stream doing, actual story stuff instead. And as noticed in the new releases, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is out, so I have absolutely failed in my attempts to get these games done before that came out. So yeah, there it is, confirmation. We were waiting on it, I knew it was going to happen. There it is. Anyway, I'm going to leave that to play, and we'll leave it there. So that was the games recap and the channel update for this week, 25th of July to 31st of July 2022. Hope you found something interesting there, some new releases you might be interested in, maybe some of the monthly games, maybe some industry news that was bullshit. you are also equally annoyed as I am with those kind of things. Anyway, hopefully see some of you tomorrow for me and Melwin playing Man of Medan, or see some of you on Wednesday for the Stray speedrun, or Thursday for Batman Arkham Asylum Part 2, or Friday for Severed Steel, where we play that for a bit, or Saturday again for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, or hey, maybe we'll come back around on Sunday and we'll do the weekly news recap for August, first week. Anyway, one of those. I'm going to head off now. I've been talking for a long time and my throat is getting sore, so I'm going to leave. Right, enjoy the rest of your day, and I shall see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Right, bye-bye. Thank you.